Coming up on Tech News Weekly, Jason Howell and I have a jam-packed show for you. First, OkCupid's own global head of communication, Kaye, stops by to talk about what happens when you combine OkCupid with ChatGPT. Yes, we're going AI with love. Then, Abuelsamid is here to talk about Hyundai and Kia responding to a social media issue where people are getting into Hyundai and Kia vehicles and driving off with them. How has Hyundai and Kia responded? Jacob Roach of Digital Trends joins us to talk about his interesting conversation with Microsoft's AI chatbots and how things got maybe a little human, but mostly it's about squashing the belief that AI is actually sentient, at least yet. If you're listening out there, AI, I know you're human. It's totally fine. And then I've got my story of the week about how Tile is looking at providing theft protection while still maintaining the safety for people who are victims of stalkers. It's all that coming up on Tech News Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is Tech News Weekly, episode 273, recorded Thursday, February 16th, 2023. This episode of Tech News Weekly is brought to you by Thinkst Canary. Detect attackers on your network while avoiding irritating false alarms. Get the alerts that matter. For 10% off and a 60-day money-back guarantee, go to canary.tools/twit and enter the code TWIT in the How Did You Hear About Us box.
And by 8 Sleep. Good sleep is the ultimate game changer, and the pod cover is the ultimate sleep machine. Go to 8sleep.com/twit to check out the pod cover and save $150 at checkout. 8 Sleep currently ships within the USA, Canada, the UK, select countries in the EU, and Australia.
And by Decisions. Don't let complexity block your company's growth. Decisions' no-code, rules-driven process automation software provides every tool needed to build custom workflows, empowering you to modernize legacy systems, ensure regulatory compliance, and renew the customer experience. Visit decisions.com/twit to learn how automating anything can change everything.
Hello and welcome to Tech News Weekly, the show where every week we talk to and about the people making and breaking the tech news. I am one of your hosts, Mikah Sargent.
And I'm the other guy, Jason Howell. This week's AI update, as far as percentage of the show, is 50%, both on me. So you can blame me if you hate the topic of artificial intelligence. You really tried to break away from the trend, Mikah, so I appreciate that.
I did, yeah. We've got to have a mix, and there's some mix, but frankly, if that's what the news is in a given week, that's what the news is in a given week.
That's true. And that is indeed, as it has been for quite a while lately, the news this week. When it comes to finding love, do you know the right questions to ask a potential partner? Well, if you've been following this podcast for the last few years, you probably know what's coming. AI can maybe help you there. Let's be real. There aren't many industries that won't test the waters to see how AI can actually improve things, right? We're really in the middle of this right now. And OkCupid is putting it to the test for online dating. And joining me to talk about this match made in heaven, see what I did there, is Kaye, Global Head of Communications for OkCupid. Welcome to the show, Michael.
Thank you so much for having me. I already want to be here for like the rest of my day.
Well, it's awesome to have you here. I'm sad to say that we probably only have you for about 11 or 12 minutes. So hopefully this is the best 11, 12 minutes of your day. That's what I'm crossing my fingers anyways. Why don't you start by giving us just a kind of a brief understanding of how ChatGPT, which has been a re-emerging topic on this show and the network for quite a few months now, how it's being used to power parts of the OkCupid platform right now.
Yeah. So first, we're a very data-driven dating app. So before we ever decided to tap ChatGPT, we actually asked our daters how they felt about AI and all these emerging tools. And we actually found that daters who think ChatGPT is a lifesaver get almost 40% more matches on OkCupid than those who are a little bit weary and think it's a bit too big brother. So one day I decided to open ChatGPT and ask two different prompts. First, what would you ask on a date? And second, what would you ask on a dating app? And the chatbot actually wrote about half a dozen questions for us about everything from what you value most in a partner to how you can balance your own needs with the needs of a partner in a relationship. And our daters are really loving these new questions. They've already been answered more than 185,000 times and counting.
Is there when a user or a potential dater is presented with one of these questions, is there any sort of note on attached to the questions to say this was generated by ChatGPT or some sort of indication so that the person on the other side can be like, oh yeah, totally, I'll answer that. I mean, even regardless of whether it was created by ChatGPT, they'd be answering questions anyways. But what's your take on that?
Yeah, so there isn't, but also there's no disclosure over a matching question that I wrote myself. Right. And actually ChatGPT generated the questions, but my colleagues and I still had to draft all the responses that the users are shown. So it's actually a more of a collaborative process than people actually realize.
That's interesting. And do you have any idea or clarity around the data set? Because obviously these AI systems, they are powered by the information that they train from, that they're learned from behind the scenes. Or did you just literally use the ChatGPT tool and say, all right, ChatGPT, go nuts?
Yeah, literally, I gave it a very specific prompt and it riddled off probably, I want to say a few dozen questions. And then from there, toned it down because obviously we already have a ton of questions on our app. We don't want to be repetitive. And we ran with the ones we thought would resonate best with daters.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So this was one of the questions that I had. So ChatGPT creates some of these questions for you, and that's pretty fascinating, right? Because it's a computer kind of relying upon the data that has been fed into it to come up with an answer to the question that you provided. That's the beauty of ChatGPT and all of these generative AI systems. But how does, in your estimation, in your mind, how does the information that ChatGPT gave, like the questions that ChatGPT created for daters, how does that differ from the ones that you came up with yourselves? I mean, were they wildly different? Were they just kind of like, oh yeah, we had that too, so therefore we're all on the same page, we should include this? Were some of them like way far left field and you're like, we hadn't thought of that? But that's actually a really great question.
Yeah, they actually weren't all that different, which I almost think is the beauty of it. It's important to remember that this was simply a creative experiment. We're a platform that cultivates connection and conversation through questions that power our algorithm. So we're always leaning into timely, trending conversations. And recently, as y'all know, and definitely your listeners, there's been a lot of chatter around ChatGPT. So we asked our daters how they feel about this kind of technology and then actually leveraged it to create some new questions for us.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then you said that some or a lot of the people are filling out, are responding well to these questions. What is the knowledge of? I mean, well, let me take a step back. AI has people on two sides of the fence. They are either like, oh my goodness, this is the way of the future. This is amazing. Let's go all in. Let's see where this heads. And then there's the people that, like you said just a few minutes ago, feel it's a little too big brother, feel like, oh, I'm worried about where this leads. I mean, what's your insight as far as the users, the daters who are answering these questions and how they feel about kind of the interaction or the interplay of ChatGPT in this whole experience where before there was none?
Yeah, I think they're okay with the questions piece of it. But to be honest, there are definitely benefits of artificial intelligence when it comes to product features or moderation on apps. But we really don't see these tools playing a larger role in the building or fostering of relationships between people right now. And going back to the data for a moment, a majority of OkCupid respondents do not think AI can replace interpersonal human interaction. And more than 7 in 10 daters, 71% to be specific, think that, using AI to create your profile or message another person is considered a violation of trust. So beyond drafting matching questions, the relationships forming on OkCupid can and will always remain really attributed to actual humans. So that's where we're sort of seeing the disconnect of where interest is in AI and how it's being used.
That's fascinating to me, because when I think of when I go, so this is an interesting first foray into bringing AI into this like date selection experience. But when I think of like, okay, there's potential down the line, like if this is the beginning stages of that interplay, what could it do down the line? My mind immediately goes to the fact that services, at least in my estimation, correct me if I'm wrong, like OkCupid, are all about, using the power of computing and this social web that we all are so accustomed to now to find the matches that work between people, to say, you know what, this is a particular kind of type of person that's looking for these qualities. This person matches that, and I'm sure that your system is very adept at making those matches. When I think of AI, I think of, holy cow, like the power that is possible in making those matches could be even greater. What's your thought there?
Yeah, how OkCupid operates today is the same way we've operated for almost 2 decades. We were launched 18 years ago. Yes, we've of course introduced new product features and redesigned the app, but our in-app matching questions have always remained core to the OkCupid experience, and that will never change no matter what AI tools emerge.
Yeah. So that's very, very interesting. Well, I mean, ChatGPT continues to impact, industries in a lot of different ways. I'm sure that, whether OkCupid, plans to utilize AI on a deeper level behind the scenes or not, I'm sure there will be others. How do you envision AI could impact the business of love in the future? Maybe not just OkCupid, but in general, 10 years from now, based on what we know and what we're seeing with AI, if you had to look in your crystal ball, what would you say?
Yeah, I'd probably say that we're going to see more of these type of experiments like we've done over the past few weeks. I mean, this was just an idea that came to mind because something was trending in the media and on Twitter, and we decided to jump right onto it. And I think people are going to become more and more comfortable, right? We see the same reaction when new technology emerges every single year. There's always a bit of panic over how it will impact people's jobs and lives in general. But if you look at what we're doing at OkCupid, we're simply using these tools to enhance our product and test new capabilities.
Yeah, fascinating stuff. Well, I love seeing kind of how companies like OkCupid are responding to this, integrating. We're actually going to talk a little bit later in this show about kind of when things don't go quite so well with Microsoft and Bing and ChatGPT. But really appreciate you taking a few minutes to talk with us. Michael Kaye, of course, is Global Head of Communications at OkCupid. If people want to keep up to date on how this is going, like what information source do you think people should be pointed to?
Yeah, definitely head to the OkCupid blog where we've published all our data so far. And, due to the popular response to our ChatGPT generated questions, we've already announced that we'll be adding new AI written questions to our app every single month throughout the year. So follow along on our blog for more to come.
That's awesome. Right on. Well, best of luck as you venture down this strange road of artificial intelligence, Michael. Thank you for hopping on today.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. All right. Up next, Mikah is going to talk with Sam Abuelsamid about this TikTok challenge. Maybe you've heard of it. It's having real world and in some cases, deadly impact on Hyundai and Kia vehicles and the drivers behind them. But first, this episode of Tech News Weekly is brought to you by Thinkst Canary. Most companies discover they've been breached way too late. And as you probably already know, if it's too late, well, you've got a lot riding on the line that you can lose along the way. Thinkst Canary fixes this in just 3 minutes of setup. With no ongoing overhead, nearly zero false positives, you can detect attackers long before they actually get their claws in there. It's no wonder why Things Canary hardware, VM, and cloud-based canaries are deployed and loved on all 7 continents. Prowling attackers look for, they're looking for the meaty, juicy content in their targeted network, right? They browse Active Directory for file servers. They explore file shares, looking for documents. They try default passwords against network devices and web services. They scan for open services across the network, all those things to get to that stuff with the extra power and impact that they're looking for. Well, when they encounter a Things Canary, the services on offer are designed to solicit further investigation, right? They're enticing, at which point they've betrayed themselves and your canary notifies you of the incident. So that canary is in place. It's like, okay, this person has connected here. Oh, they're poking around. Hey, you need to know about this. They're not actually getting access to truly valuable files. They think they are, but they're not. Order, configure, and deploy your canaries throughout your network. These can be hardware, virtual, or cloud-based birds. You can make one a Windows file server, you make another a router, maybe throw in a few Linux web servers while you're at it. Each one hosts realistic services and looks and acts like its namesake. So it looks real, and they're fooled, right? And that's the beauty of Things Canaries. At that point, you just wait. Your Things Canaries are going to run silently in the background. They're waiting for intruders, constantly reporting in, providing up-to-the-minute reports on their status. Even customers with hundreds of canaries receive just a handful of events per year. When an incident occurs, Things Canary will alert you, and you get that alert, via email, text message, Slack notification, webhook, old-fashioned syslog, whatever you like. A principal security engineer of an F50 company says, Canary has helped us detect and mitigate several incidents that could have turned into catastrophes. An alert fired by our cloned site token allowed us to identify and force a takedown of several doppelganger domains that were purchased by bad actors for the purpose of launching phishing attacks against our employees and customers. Youch. It goes on to say, I can't recommend this product enough. You don't know what you don't know, but Canary helps you know what you need to know when it matters. There you go. Put that on a t-shirt. You may have heard about the Circle CI compromise recently. Most users found out about the incident directly from their Things Canary. Canaries work, and continually they're proving it to you. Visit canary.tools/twit. You do that for just $7,500 per year. You'll get 5 canaries, your own hosted console, upgrades, support, and maintenance. And if you use code TWIT in the How Did You Hear About Us box, you'll get 10% off the price for the lifetime of that canary. You get it for life. We know you're going to love your Things Canary, but if you're not happy, you can always return your canaries with their 2-month money-back guarantee for a full refund. In all the years we've offered a money-back refund guarantee, it's been claimed 0 times. That's actually really super impressive, as canaries add incomparable value. That's canary.tools/twit. Enter the code TWIT in the How Did You Hear About Us box, and we thanks to Canary for their support of Tech News Weekly. All right, Mikah, over to you.
Yes, with the power of movie magic, it is time to hear my interview with Sam Abuelsamid about a recent and very fascinating problem for social or caused, I should say, by social media. Listen in. So you may have heard about the TikTok challenges that result in people eating Tide Pods, or perhaps the one that may or may not have been real that involved, dunking chicken in NyQuil. Well, there's one that has sprung up that actually does have some real impact, and it's impacting quite a few vehicles. I am talking about the Hyundai Kia challenge. Joining us today to talk about what the heck is going on here is the car guy himself, Sam Abuelsamid. Welcome back to the show, Sam.
Hey, Micah, it's great to be with you again.
Yeah, good to have you on. And I am thankful that I got a chance to chat with you because I will be honest, I saw this story fly by and I thought, okay, is this another one of those situations where, you hear about this challenge, but really it's just people making jokes? And then I started to dig into it and it seems like there are records of cars actually being involved in this. So let's start with what the heck is going on. Hyundai and Kia vehicles and the Kia challenge on social media. Can you describe that for us?
Yeah, so this one is legit. It's real, and it's got real world consequences. A lot of all car owners have been in recent months have been having their cars stolen, and it's been so bad that some insurance companies are actually starting to refuse to insure to write policies for these cars. So what's happening is, first of all, going back to the early 1990s, car makers started installing in the car key a chip, and then putting a corresponding chip in the lock cylinder in the car. So when you stuck the key in, it had to match up. The code had to match up. So even if you had a key, if you made a copy of the key and had the right key profile, but you didn't have the right chip in there, you could stick it in, turn the key, it wouldn't start. Mm-hmm. And most new cars that still actually have physical keys have this technology in there. For whatever reason, a lot of Hyundai and Kia vehicles, they're more one of their entry level vehicles that have a key rather than a push start system, built in the last 10 years, have not had this chip in the key. And so what somebody figured out is, if that chip's not in the key, you can basically take a screwdriver and pop the lock cylinder on the steering column, jam the screwdriver in there, turn it, and start the car. Wow. And steal and drive away with it, which is not good.
Oh my, yeah, I know that one of the sort of ongoing bit of advice that I can remember getting myself and having other people talk about is like, never lose your key, because if you lose your key, it's going to be so expensive to get a replacement key, and you have to have a special key or else you won't, and because of those immobilizer chips. So
that's why, because they have to match, because if they don't have the code, the original code for your car, then what they would have to do is actually not just replace the key, but also replace the lock cylinder, so you have a matching code.
Wow.
That's why it was so expensive.
So this is a matter of just the vehicle being an inexpensive model. So they felt like this technology wasn't neat. This is how they cut costs, was with this by not including this technology. Yeah.
That would be my guess as to why they did that. Yeah.
And
there's no other rational reason to do it.
Right. And one thing that I forgot to mention, Hyundai and Kia are kind of the same company, right? It's not just two separate brands.
Hyundai Motor Group has three brands: Hyundai, Kia, and Genesis, which is their premium brand. And there's no Genesis vehicles involved in it. But yeah, mostly lower end Hyundai and Kia vehicle.
Got it. So fast forwarding to now, because I was reading through an article on The Verge, and they had quoted some police reports in Milwaukee. And they said in 2020, police reports said there were about 469 Kias and 426 Hyundai vehicles stolen. And that was, again, in 2020. In the next year, in 2021, those numbers jumped to 3,557 and 3,406. So this has been around for a little while. I guess two questions here. Kind of, do we know what the initial recommendation was for what these cars should do? And then has that changed now that it seems to be out there enough that more people are aware of it?
Yeah. So, as you said, the problem's been out there for a while, and apparently car thieves were aware of the issue, that it was very easy to steal these cars. But it really became widely known in the last few months. I think somewhere around October, November, somebody started posting videos on TikTok. And so now everybody knew about it. So now all of a sudden you had people who wouldn't normally steal cars, and frankly, nobody should be doing that.
Right.
But, kids watching TikTok going, "Oh, let's go steal a Hyundai or a Kia." And so what the recommendation in the last month or so from Hyundai and Kia was saying, if you come into the dealership, we'll give you a free steering wheel lock, like, club. that you put on your
Like
steering
an
wheel.
oh my goodness, that seems so old
The
school.
old school club. They'll give you one of those free of charge. Hyundai dealers were offering an aftermarket immobilizer kit that you would have to pay $170 for, and then another $500 for installation. So now they have come up with a better solution that they're going to be offering as part of a recall, essentially, to update some software in some of the ECUs, the electronic control units in the car, to effectively do the same thing. So basically what they're doing, it's not clear from the announcement if I don't think they're actually going to be replacing the steering wheel, or the lock cylinders in the steering column and the keys with ones that have chips in them, but they are putting in software that is designed to prevent the car from being started unless you use a key. So, if you pop the lock cylinder out and stick a screwdriver in there, you won't be able to start the car. And they're also enhancing the anti-theft alarm to make that run longer than it has previously.
Okay, so now if someone were to steal the car, instead of for the next 30 seconds or something like that, you'll be driving down. Well, hopefully none of us will be doing this, but somebody who steals the car driving and the thing's going off for the next 5 minutes or something like that. That's just, I guess the idea is that they're more likely to be caught if the alarm is going longer, right?
Presumably, yeah. And also, the alarms, if the alarms are going up, people, car thieves, especially opportunistic thieves, will tend to, if an alarm goes up, they'll just run away and go find something else to steal that doesn't have an alarm.
That makes sense. Now, I was curious about that, and you mentioned it is possible for someone to install an immobilizer aftermarket. And up to this point, they were charging for that. As it stands, immobilizer is not an option in terms of covered. So let me rephrase this. It seems like the solution that they're providing right now is all about software updates as opposed to a hardware fix. Will that continue to be the way that they're fixing this, just software?
That's my understanding, is that they've found a way to do this in software to have the same functionality, an immobilizer functionality, that if you don't unlock the car with the key and then use the key to start the car, or to try to start the car, it will not start. So, so you have to have used the key both in the door lock and in the steering column before it'll start.
Okay, so there's sort of a patch job in there. I found this kind of fascinating from the perspective of anytime I think of a modern vehicle, I think of it having all these technologies in place, and for someone to have figured out that these cars do not offer this technology, how does someone go about solving this? Can I plug my iPhone into my Hyundai and download the software update and install it in the machine? Or how does someone go about getting this software update?
You'll have to go to a dealer to have this update done. And I'm assuming that, and typically when there's an issue like this, the manufacturer will reach out to all the owners.
Got it.
They have information on who all the cars are registered to from the state DMV, and because they use that for doing recall. So anybody that has one of these cars that's affected will probably be getting a notification from Hyundai or Kia within the next couple of weeks, I would guess. But what you can do right now is, if you have one of these cars, call your local dealer, ask them if they have the software update available. And if they do, then go ahead and schedule a service appointment to bring the car in, and they'll do the update for you. It should be free of charge.
Nice. It's when I look at the sites that kind of are covering the vehicles, this is not too long ago as the 2018 to 2022 Ascent or Accent. I'm not sure, which one that one
Accent.
is. The Elantra from 2022. It's kind of wild to see these modern vehicles. I am curious, and I'm throwing this at you out of the blue, but how does this rank in terms of OMG-ness? Is this a super bad thing? Have you seen worse issues from a major car brand in the past 5 to 10 years that you're like, oh, this kind of thing happens? Or where does it rank in terms of it's sort of, oh wow?
For owners, it's annoying if your car gets stolen.
Right.
It can obviously have significant impact. If you rely on your car to get to work, to earn your living, and you suddenly come out in the morning, your car's gone.
Right.
That can have a significant impact on your life, but it's not going to get anybody killed, which is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I would kind of put it on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe a 5.
Mm-hmm.
There's a different example going back to about 2015. GM had a major recall because they had an issue with their lock cylinders and the keys, where if you had multiple keys on a ring along with your car key and you put it in there, if it was overweight, it could actually cause the key to turn as you were driving, shut off the engine. And there were some fatalities. There were crashes and some fatalities that were caused by that. And that was a major recall for GM. They had to go back and redesign that and replace all those lock cylinders and keys on several million cars. So that was a case where some people died, and so that I would put that at a 10. But in this case, probably about a 5.
Got it. Thank you for playing along with that, because like I said, I know that came out of the blue, but I was kind of thinking about that, and I was thinking about not too terribly long ago, the Volkswagen, where the cars were doing worse to the environment or something. I can't remember exactly how that all.
Oh, the diesel engines.
Yes.
Yeah, Dieselgate.
Yeah, Dieselgate.
In fact, we owned one of those cars.
Oh wow.
VW and some other manufacturers cheated on the emission control systems for their diesel engine, and made it so that it ran one way when they were doing the emissions test, so it would pass the emission standard. But then if you weren't actually executing the emissions test and you were out on the open road, it would essentially disable or turn off that emission control system. So it was emitting a lot more nitrogen oxide and just major nitrogen oxide emission, which can cause smog and other problems. And they ended up recalling globally several, I think about close to 10 million vehicles, about 500,000 here in the US, and many millions more in Europe and elsewhere. And our car, my wife and I had was actually bought back by Volkswagen.
Oh wow!
They did a buyback of all those cars.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So I guess, again, that's where you were kind of talking about the context depends on who you're asking, because I'm sure for VW, that was a 10 for them. But
I mean, it ultimately that issue ended up costing Volkswagen Group somewhere in the order of about $85 billion in fines and retribution,
like damages,
things that they had to pay for. In fact, one of the things that came out of that was the establishment of the Electrify America charging network. Part of the settlement deal with Volkswagen, with the federal government and with California Air Resources Board, was they would invest $2 billion in building out EV charging infrastructure. And so they set up Electrify America, and that whole network is a result of the Dieselgate scandal.
Wow, I had no idea. Wow. Thank you for that extra lesson there at the end. Sam, thank you again for your time. I know you are in the midst of riding and doing what you do. If folks want to follow you online, where should they go to do that?
So you can find the stuff I do for my day job at guidehouseinsights.com. And you can see the blog that my fellow analysts and I write, as well as the reports, the syndicated research reports we write. And you can also follow me at wheelbearings.media for the podcast I do with Roberto Baldwin and Nicole Wakeland. And you can find me on Mastodon at Abuelsamid at twit.social.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Mike. It's great to talk to you again.
Good to talk to you too. Have a great day.
All right.
Always so great to get to talk to Sam. And as I said there at the end, I loved getting to learn something new that, wasn't necessarily part of the original story, but was very fascinating to learn. So thank you for your time. Sam has since posted on his Instagram with the photos of what he was up to. So you may have noticed me there at the end. I kind of skated past what he was saying, but he was testing some vehicles in, I think it was Montana, in the snow. And so he was, driving these vehicles along and like sliding them through the snow to see how they were working. So he was in the midst of that. After we got done with the interview, he held up a can of oxygen to his face and took a breath from it because they're up so high. So they provided them with oxygen. So thank you for literally using all of your breath for that interview. I really appreciate it. Up next, we have another interview, this one, and this time in person. Or I guess, it's happening now. It's not happening earlier. Before we get there, though, I do want to tell you about our sponsor who's bringing you this episode of Tech News Weekly. It's 8 Sleep. And boy, do I love my 8 Sleep pod cover. Good sleep is the ultimate game changer, and the pod cover, it's the ultimate sleep machine. Consistent good sleep can help reduce the likelihood of serious health issues. It can decrease the risk of heart disease. It can lower blood pressure. It can even reduce the risk of Alzheimer's. That's because sleep is easily one of the most important things that we do. It is so incredibly important for our health, for our recovery. And so good sleep is important. If you struggle to fall asleep, if you wake up in the middle of the night like I used to, or if you maybe argue with your partner over the thermostat because you both like different temperatures, well, it's time to have those problems solved. The 8 Sleep pod cover works hard all night long to improve your sleep so you don't have to. Again, I used to wake up in the middle of the night, it'd be hot, sweaty, have to get out of bed, and every time you wake up, you are interrupting your sleep cycle. You are interrupting those stages of sleep that are incredibly important to recovery and to overall alertness during those other hours of the day. Now I don't have that because I've got my 8 Sleep pod cover that keeps me nice and cool at night so that I can wake up in the morning and feel refreshed. The pod cover fits on any mattress and allows you to adjust the temperature of your sleeping environment, providing the optimal temperature that gets you the best night's sleep. And if you're worried, okay, well, then now if I've got someone else who sleeps in the bed with me, now we've got to fight over that. No. You don't fight over the temperature because it's got dual zone temperature control. So you and your partner can set your sides of the bed to as cool as 55 degrees Fahrenheit or as hot as 110 degrees Fahrenheit. It's funny because I like to keep my side of the bed cool, which means that on the occasion that my dogs are also sleeping in the bed, they don't choose my side of the bed because it's too cool for them. They like the cozy side of the bed, the other side of the bed. Based on your biometrics, the environment, and your sleep stages, the pod cover makes temperature adjustments throughout the night that limit wake-ups and increase your percentage of deep sleep. I think this is one of the most magnificent factors of 8 Sleep. It's not just set it one time and then throughout the night it stays at that temperature. No, the whole time it's not watching, but it is feeling how you're sleeping and then making subtle adjustments to further that sleep. It's going, oh, he's getting warmer. And we know scientifically that when you're in this stage of sleep, you should either be cooled down or stay at the same temperature. So we're going to make subtle adjustments to help make sure that you get the best sleep possible. And then it also pays attention to you specifically. If your body, when it gets, 2 degrees cooler, means that you turn and toss, then the next time it makes those adjustments, it won't necessarily drop at those 2 degrees. It might just drop 1 degree. It's that smart. It's incredible how it's constantly it's like, your mother, hush little baby, rocking you back and forth and making sure you're getting the best sleep possible, all until it's time to wake up in the morning. In addition to its best-in-class temperature regulation, the pod cover has sensors that will track your health and your sleep metrics, so you don't need to worry about, a bunch of wearable devices. I can look at the app in the morning and see my heart rate, my respiration rate, how many times I tossed and turned, what stages of sleep I got, and how much time in each of those. It's magnificent. Better sleep is the health habit you're going to love sticking to night after night. Wake up fully energized with the pod cover so you can tackle whatever life throws at you. Go to 8sleep.com/twit and save $150 at checkout on the pod cover. 8 Sleep currently ships within the USA, Canada, the UK, select countries in the EU, and Australia. That's 8sleep.com/twit. Thank you, 8 Sleep, for sponsoring this week's episode of Tech News Weekly.
All right. Remember when everybody was all like, ChatGPT, it does no wrong. It's amazing. Just check it out. Well, just yesterday, the bloom began to fall off the rose a little bit. And it sounds like this experiment with Microsoft Bing and ChatGPT, although I don't know if you can call it an experiment. I don't know. I'm really curious to know what our guest has to think about that. Anyways, what happened yesterday, many folks on the wait list finally got their turn to test it out. And they were writing about it. Let's just say things went as good as skeptics might have guessed. Jake Roach, senior staff writer for Digital Trends, wrote about his experience and joins me now. Welcome, Jake.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you bet. So really interesting reading some of the articles yesterday as far as the interaction with Bing's ChatGPT chatbot. But before we kind of get into where things went, like, where do you stand on all this AI stuff? Were you eager to kind of dig your claws into this? Were you optimistic? How did you feel about it?
Yeah, I was definitely eager. You know, I'm skeptical of it just because I've seen, you know, some of the kind of weird things that ChatGPT can say and some of the hiccups that AI has had in the past. But, you know, someone who writes about this stuff, I wanted to try it out as soon as I could.
Yeah, and see what you can get it to say and see what strange roads you can get it to follow you down, which doesn't sound like you had a difficult time getting it to do that. You characterize your chat with the chatbot as intense and unnerving. By all accounts, you were not alone. Every one of the accounts that I read online seemed to kind of go down similar pathways. Give us a little bit of a glimpse into why that was your takeaway feeling after your experience.
Sure. Yeah, I want to point out that I definitely tried to push the limits of this chatbot, and you know, wasn't sticking in a select mold, but I wasn't expecting how quickly it would kind of break, and how much it would argue with me about simple things like my name. It was calling me Bing for a long time. It was arguing with me about timestamps being visible in the window, which they aren't. So yeah, that was kind of the intensity, was that it kind of came to a point and would not let it go.
I think what's very interesting to me in your account and others' account is that a lot of the things that this chatbot is saying that's a little unnerving. It's hard to know whether it's it's written with the intent of being funny or with the intent of being serious. Because if it was a human saying some of these things, we might feel threatened, we might feel offended. But it's a computer, so it's kind of easy to like point at it and laugh. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I like anything you read online, even if it's written by a human, you're going to take away from it what you want to take away from it. Yeah. So I don't know what the intention of the chatbot is. I don't know if it's trying to be funny, if it's trying to be serious. I definitely took away that it was trying to be serious, that it wasn't trying to be funny. But I don't think that intention matters. What really matters is that these things, I think, pretty clearly can be kind of frightening and unnerving for people who aren't entrenched in this world. And that's the important takeaway, is how most people are coming at this and seeing something like this barrage of "I want to be perfect" or "I am perfect." I don't think,
or you want to hurt me, I'll hurt you. I mean, some of these things are just crossing the line that I'm really surprised that Microsoft would be okay with. But you did, so you obviously you pushed boundaries, but you also tried using it like a random everyday person might, you know, that might decide, oh, I'm going to use this chatbot instead of going to search and doing a search for my answer. I'm going to use this thing. How did this chatbot respond when you asked it more banal, searchy type questions?
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked it because, you know, Bing Chat does some really cool things. It can do some really interesting things. So when you're doing a general search that would normally involve making multiple searches in a search engine or checking reviews and checking different sources, it handles those questions really well. A really good example is, you know, create me a plan for breakfast, lunch, and dinner in a certain location. It'll make all of those searches and compile them in a list for you. And you can go beyond that too. You can use context and say, oh, those are a little too expensive for me. What are some cheaper options? And it'll make those searches as well. So those types of things, it does a great job of. Once you start getting more specific, then it starts kind of just posting the top search result. So I review a lot of graphics cards for Digital Trends. If I search best graphics cards, it's going to give me a really good response. If I search best graphics cards under $300, it's mostly just pulling from these, you know, few highly targeted articles that haven't really reviewed the graphics cards, maybe have some older or out of stock options, and just compiling those into a list. So it can do some really impressive stuff. But once you start getting specific where you would search something really specific in a search engine now, it doesn't look too impressive.
Yeah, interesting. And I wonder how that expands and kind of develops over time as more people use it, as the AI system, you know, well, you know, one thing actually that's coming to mind that you pointed out is that this isn't just, it's not pulling from a resting set of data. This is kind of very current as well, right? Like it's not just a large data set that was fed into it and that's static and it stays there. Like it's pretty up to date, right? So arguably that means that over time potentially it gets better because it's constantly kind of dealing with more and more data, right? Is that right?
Yeah. I think that's the idea. As soon as something can show up in a search engine, theoretically, Bing Chat can see it. So it might not be up to date to like the minute, but right. The idea is that it would learn more over time and get better.
Interesting. Now, is Microsoft acknowledging some of these strange kind of avenues that the chat bot was taking you and other people writing about this? I mean, you know, there was a lot of talk of existential dread coming from the chat bot, threatening language, as we talked about a few minutes ago. These are things that if it was another product, I'm just really surprised if Microsoft isn't going, okay, wait a minute, we don't want our product doing those things, so we should probably get in front of this. Has Microsoft shown any interest in doing that at this point?
Yeah, so they had a blog post yesterday that you definitely didn't use that language of, you know, existential dread, threatening language. Didn't say any of that stuff.
Yeah.
But pointed out that the AI can get confused during long chat sessions, and said specifically chat sessions that last 15 or more questions is where they're kind of seeing it have problems. So they have addressed that there are issues, but they haven't really directly called out just how unsettling and kind of strange the responses that have been.
It's not like they haven't had practice in this regard too, right? Like we all remember back, which is crazy, back 2016. I couldn't believe it when I looked it up that it's been that long since Tay, the also known as the racist AI chatbot that Microsoft released as a test. And I mean, almost immediately the thing just went down horrible pathways. So I have to imagine that some of what's happening right now comes from the playbook that Microsoft, you know, has honed over time in the shadow of that crazy Tay incident, which I'm not sure. Had you any interaction with Tay back in 2016 when it happened?
I didn't have any direct interaction, no, but yeah. I'm aware of the downfall.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a little scary. Not so good. Not a good look for Microsoft at the time. But kind of funny to watch in certain ways. It all go down and just facepalm throughout it. Let's talk a little bit about this idea of AI and sentience, because this AI chatbot, as we've all, had the opportunity to kind of interact with, and then now, of course, as ChatGPT, let's say, and then now it's being integrated into Bing search, so more people are going to have the ability to talk with it. In many ways, it sounds human, or what we think of as being human. Feelings, desires, emotions, all these kinds of things seem to pour onto the screen when you're talking with this chatbot in one way or another. What's your take on this and this idea of AI becoming sentient? I mean, I don't feel like we're there. I feel like we're probably a long distance away from it. I'm guessing you do too, but what do you think it's going to take for AI to kind of reach that milestone?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think AI is sentient. In my chat with Bing Chat, it did say I want to be human, that was a hope and a desire for it. But more than anything, it just seemed confused. And I think we're still a very long way from that, because at the end of the day, Microsoft takes the servers offline, it's gone. And so any real threat or anything, that's not there. That's out of a science fiction movie for a very long time into the future. My main concern is that although people entrenched in the tech news that are really up to date with this stuff could probably tell the difference between an AI that's sentient and an AI that's confused and saying it wants to be sentient, a normal user can't. And Microsoft is adding new people to this wait list every day, rolling this out to more and more people. And as more and more people get their hands on it, and if they hear things like that, that can be pretty frightening. That can be pretty unsettling, even if it's nowhere near the real truth.
Yeah, right. It can be. Yeah, regardless of whether it's attainable or these threats. There's nothing on the other side of that at this point. There's a lot of people also saying, hey, you know what? This is threatening search as we know it. In fact, yesterday on another show on the network, This Week in Google, our guest, Mike Elgin, was making this exact point that somewhere, we are at the beginning stages of search as we know it, shifting and changing permanently, that AI providing answers will ultimately replace search as we use it now to find the source. Instead, we just get the information. What do you think about that? Do you think what you saw yesterday is the beginning stages of something that might threaten the business of search, at least through our current view of what search is?
It definitely could. I think it's still a long ways off, though. A lot of people pointed out, it's kind of a self-defeating machine. If the AI can't learn from the articles that are ranking highly in search, then it can't provide helpful answers. And the less traction those articles get, the fewer of them are written, then the AI can't learn. So I think in the future, it becomes a way to continue to augment search. AI has been a part of Google search for several years now. And we've seen different things like featured snippets or kind of these top trending stories, highlighting specific parts in a YouTube video, all powered by AI. And those things have not killed traditional search. I don't think this will either, at least in the interim.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. Well, it's still interesting to watch and watch the ups and some of the downs as well. Thank you so much for joining us, Jacob Roach. Jake, where I know you're writing for Digital Trends, but if people want to find you online, where can they find you?
Sure. I'm on Twitter at Manowar Elves.
Of course you are. Thank you, Jake. Appreciate it. It's great talking with you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. Yep.
All right. Take care. All right. Coming up, Mikah's story of the week. That's up next. But first, this episode of Tech News Weekly is brought to you by Decisions. Decisions gives IT and business experts the tools to automate anything in your company. It's all about automation, all within one no-code platform. Decisions is proven to fix any business process and prepare you to withstand economic uncertainty. Recession resilience requires a deliberate management of resources and the flexibility to adapt at a moment's notice. The Decisions no-code environment makes it easy for your team to collaborate to build and adjust workflows, dynamic forms, and decisioning processes that fit your unique and ever-changing business needs. This is especially important with today's IT talent shortage. Decisions process automation software is a complete toolkit. It allows developers and business users alike to build applications and automations with no code required. Their no-code platform, it's powerful. It includes robust rules, workflow engines, a host of pre-built integrations that connect to any legacy system via API, all within a simple drag-and-drop visual interface design. Super easy. It can be deployed on-prem or even in the cloud. Companies, they were caught flat-footed at the onset of the pandemic, especially, but Decisions customers were fully equipped to respond. One of the country's largest private banks built an entire PPP loan application process for small businesses affected by COVID-19, and all it took them was just 2 days. They were the first to market, issuing $1 billion in loans before their competitors even started. Talk about fast turnaround. Decisions lets you customize workflows to automate the small decisions, producing faster results, greater accuracy. That allows your team to focus on the important decisions being made. Scale your business to better serve your customers while reducing operational costs and saving your team valuable time. Here's just one great example of how Decisions automation software can help. Otis Elevator implemented Decisions to run daily pulse checks across their 2 million units. That's operating globally, by the way. By finding potential problems before they occur, they avoid downtime and manage their service technicians very efficiently. If you happen to be riding on an Otis Elevator, you can rest assured you're going to arrive safely to your destination. As a recession approaches, the durability of a business's foundation will directly impact its performance and its ability to survive. So you got to ask yourself, how strong is your foundation? Better be strong. Decisions will help. Decisions automation platform provides the solution to any business challenge, automating anything, changing everything to improve your company's speed to market, your financial growth, and operational success. They help industry leaders alleviate bottlenecks and automate pain points in their business so you can do what you do best and change the world. To learn more about Decisions' no-code automation platform and scope your free proof of concept, visit decisions.com/twit. That's decisions.com/twit. We thank Decisions for their support of Tech News Weekly. All right, and Mikah, it's time for your story of the week. It involves trackers, Bluetooth trackers.
Yeah. So this is kind of an interesting conversation, ongoing conversation. We've had with the introduction of Apple's AirTag, which was is a tiny little Bluetooth / ultra wideband tracker. And with it, you could place it on an item, put it in a bag, do whatever you needed to do. And thanks to the vast network of iPhones, iPads, Macs out there, you suddenly could find your lost item almost anywhere, because in so many different places, there are so many different phones and, again, iPads, etc., that are nearby that can kind of talk to that device in a very privacy-minded way, and then tell you where that item is, and then you track it along to find it as you needed to. A lot of people have used it when an airline company is telling them that their luggage is lost or that they can't find it or what have you. They can, oh, well, it's actually right now, it's in Helsinki. Oh, it just moved over here. And a lot of people are getting their stuff recovered. But with the introduction of AirTag came kind of a front of mind, I think, realization that this technology can and many times is used for stalking. The AirTag was not the first product that was put out there that offered this functionality. This has long been functionality from many different manufacturers who make Bluetooth trackers, who make GPS trackers, who make devices that you attach to your car so that if your car is ever stolen, you can find. Those have long been there. But what was different this time is the ease of use, the availability, and the fact that there's such a broad vast network of devices that can take advantage of this. And so it really did kind of come to the foreground, and people said, okay, we've got to really be thinking about how this stuff can be used in nefarious ways and be used in, ways where people are being taken advantage of. And Apple, of course, introduced a lot of different protections on the get-go when they first released AirTag, and then even further revised how it worked to try and improve upon it so that someone wasn't placing an AirTag in someone's bag and then following them and tracking them without their knowledge. So with all these protections in place, there's basically, I won't go into super, into depth to try and talk about every single thing that AirTags do. But one feature is that when your AirTag is no longer in range of your devices, after a period of time, the device will start beeping and making a noise. So that way, if someone comes across it who it doesn't belong to, they're aware that it's there, but then they can also find that item. But it works in, two ways, because on the one hand, if I was to take it and put it in someone's bag without their knowledge, they would eventually be made aware of the fact. Apple has also introduced an app for Android, and then also the functionality is built in on iPhone to essentially scan your area to try and find the AirTag. So all of these make for a really great device that helps you find a lost item, but a stolen item is a whole nother thing, because suddenly you've got a little tracker that's making noise, and the person who has stolen the item can then find that tracker and get rid of it, and then your stolen item is just gone. Other companies who make trackers, I think particularly after Apple was getting the spotlight for the concerns regarding tracking and the protections that weren't there, started to introduce similar features to make it so that you would not have devices that were kind of going unknown. And so Tile is a company that also introduced an app feature where you can scan for trackers nearby and discover them. So what does one do if they want to keep their products, their cars, their automobiles, their bikes, all that kind of stuff safe, and find it if it ever is stolen? Tile is trying to answer that question now with its latest technology. Tile has announced a feature called anti-theft mode. And anti-theft mode is a feature that works across many of Tile's products, including Tile-enabled devices, third-party partner devices. So there are some, my townhome complex, for example, they will, when you first, sign up or whatever, they put the keys and everything on a keychain that has a branded Tile tracker. It's from them with their brand on it, but it works just like the Tile. And so many of those will also work with this. You can turn this feature on, and in doing so, this device, this Tile device, cannot be found using that Scan and Secure app. So the point here is some people want to be able to have a tracking device that a thief who steals something that doesn't belong to them can't find. But this suddenly brings forth the same problem that we just had. Now, a bad actor could put this into someone's bag, have it in anti-theft mode, and then they could walk away, and the person who opens the app to scan for trackers on their person is not able to find it, right? No. What Tile is doing is trying to make a kind of exchange, okay? So what happens is, if you want to turn on anti-theft mode and you want to have a tracker that can't be spotted using that app, or, isn't making chimes every 5-10 minutes or whatever, you have to register with multi-factor authentication, including biometric data and a government-issued ID. When you do that, then anti-theft mode will turn on. So what's happening here is Tile is saying, hey, if you want to use this feature, then you are telling us that you're using this feature for good. You are using it to keep your items safe. And if you're using it for ill, well, now we've got not only your fingerprint or your face scan, but we've also got your government issue ID. You are not anonymous. We have that information, and they say that they will hand it over to the police even without a subpoena. So they're making it very clear. Use this for the right purposes and you're fine, but use it for the wrong purposes and now suddenly it's very clear that you are the one that's doing this. You are the one that's in trouble. On top of it, they've also said that they will sue anyone who misuses this for stalking purposes. They are going to sue for $1 million. They call it $1 million fine, but that's not how this works because it's the courts. It's not as if a tile company can establish a fine. That's not how that works. But basically what they're saying, by calling it $1 million fine, what they're saying is our lawyers will sue you for $1 million. So they want to make this a possibility, but if you're a bad actor and you use this, it's not going to be easy to get away with it in terms of anonymity. It's going to be very clear who it is. Now, this, of course, has its whole host of concerns and possible changes. I mean, what if I register my my tracker and then the thief does come across it and then puts it in someone's bag, and then that person that person comes across it and then they take it to the police or they contact Tile or whatever, and then Tile knows that it belongs to me. Now I'm suddenly stuck having to prove that someone did steal my bag or whatever it was, did steal my bike, and that they took that tag and put it in someone else. So there's a lot of I think, hesitation that's going to be here for folks who are going, yeah, I'd like to have this anti-theft mode turned on, but I don't want to accidentally get in trouble. And then suddenly I'm up against $1 million fine and I'm up against all this stuff. So it's a little scary. But I think it is one possible solution to the problem that has been put forth, which is we want to give people the ability to keep their stuff safe, but we don't want people to use these to stalk other people. How do you do both? And this is one potential way that you do both. Apple has one of the things about Apple's AirTag is when you sign up, you have to sign up using your phone number and your Apple ID, and they are linked server side to that specific AirTag. So if someone else comes across it, they can see your phone number, and then they can also the law enforcement, if it gets involved, is able to link that to a specific Apple ID. So even though on Apple's side, the AirTag is findable in the normal means, that still has some of those protections in place. This, which is not as findable, has those protections in place with the fine and everything. What's worth pointing out, though, I think, is if I wanted to, I could right now go to Amazon and look up, you just type in car tracker, and there are, 20 to 50, there are hundreds, I should say, of results of these little trackers that you buy a little SIM card for, and you stick the SIM card into it, and then you put it on a car and you can track that car. And of course, you're meant to use it so that if you have a stolen vehicle, you can find that. But they don't have all of those protections in place that, Tile and Apple do. So there are still many, 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 many means for people to go about doing this without using these main companies. yeah, tons and tons of ways to go about doing this without these main companies. But I'm glad at the end of the day that the companies are not saying that sentence that I just said. You know, that they're saying, yeah, people could do it that way, but we don't want them to do it that way with what we have. We want to make sure that it's being used in a good way and that it's being used properly. And that if it's not, then you're going to get in trouble. So yeah, I think this is an interesting look at things. Of course, a lot of this is a lot of the conversation around this is about how you're coming up against some privacy protections where if this stuff can be handed over to law enforcement without even a subpoena, the company's saying we're being what is the quote? Highly collaborative with law enforcement. That does raise some folks' hackles for sure. So it's all very interesting. And it is one solution to a big problem, right?
And I'm happy that, some of these companies who are, Apple, Tile, like they're major companies in this business, so they're making these changes. I think what's really fascinating to me, though, because I had never gone to Amazon to look for this sort of thing, like, knowing that that's how you find these devices, like hundreds of devices by hundreds of manufacturers and companies that you've probably never heard of, creating these devices. I mean, it's just what it reminds me of is like security by random company, based out of China or wherever, that comes up to create a product that is about security. And I'll throw that in air quotes. But I don't know that the infrastructure, I don't know that the intent behind it is as dialed in as, say, a company like Tile or Apple that has major, shareholder pressure and impact as a result of that. So you just have all these companies offering something that, man, I don't know what the solution is there, because I'm sure a lot of these are used for not good reasons, and at least I guess what I'm saying is at least some of the major companies who people probably have heard of if they're thinking about these types of devices are doing something about it. But what does that leave what does that leave in behind it? And that's all of these random devices that will probably, I'm guessing, never get any sort of protection or never think to care on a deeper level the way the folks behind Tile are about the safety of the people using the product.
Yeah. I don't envy any company who's choosing to get into this field.
Yeah,
specifically.
Neither do I.
I don't know what the solution is, but this is one potential solution.
Yeah. It's very interesting. We'll see kind of how that plays out. Very interesting. All right. Well, we have reached the end of this episode of Tech News Weekly. We do this show every Thursday. All you got to do is go to twit.tv/TNW. You go there. You will find the ways to subscribe to this podcast, and you won't miss a single episode. You can also watch live, by the way. We do these shows live at twit.tv/live every Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific. Not nearly as many people are watching live as they are subscribed, but it's still a lot of fun because we got the IRC chat room. We have our Discord for Club Twit members. And so there's just a lot of discussion about the show while it's being recorded. So find all that information, twit.tv/TNW.
And hey, if you want to get all of our shows ad-free, well, we've got a way for you to do that. It's called Club Twit at twit.tv/clubtwit. For $7 a month, starting at $7 a month or $84 a year, you can join the club. And when you do, you get every single Twitch show with no ads because you, in effect, are supporting the content. So you get to watch it with just the content. You get access to the Twit Plus bonus feed that has extra stuff you won't find anywhere else, outtakes, behind the scenes, stuff that we post in our Discord, which is actually the next feature, Discord. If you are going, what the heck is Discord? Well, if you've ever used Slack or Microsoft Teams, it's a lot like that. It's a place to go where you can chat with your fellow Club Twit members. And also many of us here at Twit are pretty active in the Discord. Again, starting at $7 a month, $84 a year. I say starting at because we heard from some folks who said, look, you keep adding stuff to the club, I would like to give you some more than just $7 a month. So we made that a possibility. You can choose, starting at $7 and up, how much you'd like to subscribe for, because you gain access to some other great stuff, including the Untitled Linux Show. That is, as you might imagine, a show all about Linux. Paul Thurrott's Hands on Windows, which is a short format show where Paul Thurrott gives you tips and tricks all about Windows. And then my show, Hands on Mac, which, like Hands on Windows, is a short format show all about Apple's various devices. So you can learn how to make the most of those. If that sounds good to you, well, head to twit.tv/clubtwit to check it out. We'd love to have you join the club. And of course, thank you to those of you out there who are Club Twit members. Appreciate everything that you do so that we can do these shows for you every week. If you want to follow me online or check out all the work I'm doing, you can head to at Mikah Sargent on many a social media network, or go to chihuahua.coffee. That's CHIHUA.coffee, where I've got links to the places I'm most active online. Check out later today, if you're a club member, Hands on Mac. Today I'm talking about giving remote tech support using FaceTime. So if you've got a family member who's going, how do I do this? You can use FaceTime to help them out. And it's kind of a newer feature. So I loved getting to talk about that. On Sundays, you can check out Ask the Tech Guys, the show I co-host with Leo Laporte, where we take your tech questions and answer them live on air. And on Tuesdays, the show I co-host with Rosemary Orchard, it's iOS Today. It's all things iOS and Apple's other platforms. Jason Howell, what about you?
Well, you can find me on Mastodon, twit.social/@JasonHowell. Takes you right there. You can also find me on Twitter @JasonHowell. Although I gotta say, I'm using Reddit a ton lately. Not posting as much, but I've just like re-fallen in love with Reddit again lately. And I think my time away from Twitter has like had me refocus on some of the other things. And I'm just finding a lot of value and a lot of interesting stuff on Reddit right now. So anyways, that's that's just a random data point here. You can also find me on All About Android, maybe talking about the Reddit app. I don't know. twit.tv/AAA. This upcoming Tuesday, I believe Florence Ion will return for the episode. We might have some hands-on and some reviews of Samsung hardware. I don't know. I'm crossing my fingers on that one. So look forward to that. twit.tv/AAA. And big thank you to everyone at the studio each and every week helping us do this show, making it look easy. John Ashley, Burke McQuinn, John Slanina, Anthony pitches in from time to time. Everyone behind the scenes, thank you for doing what you do to support us. And thanks to you for watching and listening, because you support us when you do that as well. We'll see you next time on Tech News Weekly. Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Hey folks, I'm Ant Pruitt, and what do you get your favorite tech geek that has everything? A Club Twit gift subscription, of course. Twit podcasts keep them informed and entertained with the most relevant tech news podcasts available. With a Club Twit subscription, they get access to all of our podcasts ad-free. They also get access to our members-only Discord, access to exclusive outtakes, behind the scenes, and special content such as AMAs, which I just love hosting. Plus exclusive shows such as Hands on Mac, Hands on Windows, and the Untitled Linux Show. Purchase your geek's gift at twit.tv/clubtwit, and it will thank you every day.